Hey guys, I'm Gary, and this is your exclusive movie review of. So this would be the fourth cult film in this little series I got going on here. This one is Hereditary. Basically, the movie is about a family grieving and coming across really disturbing occurrences. This movie, when it came out, had a bit of hype. I remember watching the trailer and talking about this film amongst my friends, not knowing really what was going to happen with this movie, but watching the trailer, it was really exciting to see what this movie was going to be all about. I think I was one of the first people among my peers to watch this film. I honestly had no idea what to think. I thought it was a very interesting movie, very good movie. You really have to watch this movie multiple times before getting all the little details of what the director Ari Aster is really throwing your way. Because if you miss it, there are themes and there are scenes in the movie where you just don't quite understand what brought those scenes in this movie. I had no idea it was a cult film by the end of the movie. I had no idea it was about resurrecting a demon by the name of Payman, King Payman. I didn't even research if there really was a King Payman. I am not really sure. I think it's just for the film itself. But it's a really interesting film to really absorb into. It's not one of those movies where you can, especially watching at home, where you can pause 5 or 10 times, take a pee break, get a snack, and stuff like that. I also think Ari Aster, the director, who has since done Midsommar, this director here, he's going places. I prefer Hereditary over Midsommar, but I still really enjoyed both. I really can't wait to see what this guy is going to come up with. This film really does have a theme with heads. There are several scenes, a head that gets knocked off. You have a character who smacks his head up against a desk in class. And then you have another character who bangs her head up against an attic door. You have the same character that uses what looks like piano wire to cut her own head off. A dead body gets stolen from a cemetery, and that person's head is decapitated and put in an attic. There's definitely a theme here involving heads. Another arc of the story that I did not get the first viewing is I did not understand who Charlie was throughout the film. When you get to the end of Hereditary, there's a person who explains being in Charlie's body, the little girl, was a mistake. He gets put in Peter's body the first viewing. I was a little bit confused there. And then you find out, yes, that King Payman was in Charlie's body from a possession earlier on. I guess King Payman wasn't really happy with that body. They found a way to, after Charlie died, to bring that body into Peter's body, and there you have that. As far as being scary, it was creepy as hell. There are scenes throughout the movie, if you're not paying attention to the background, especially in the first 10 minutes of this movie, you start seeing things you're not sure are there. They don't blatantly show you that there's a figure in the background. It's very, very minuscule. You really have to focus or look for it in order to see it. And even though I saw my first viewing, you could almost think it was just a shadow or a light hitting a certain object. And I thought that was amazing. And it didn't scare the shit out of me. It was just like you get chills running down the back of your spine and you're like, ooh. You know, there were several moments in this movie like that. And I honestly prefer that over just simple, stupid jump scares that don't amount to anything. As much as I enjoyed this movie, the next best thing to Toni Collette was The Sixth Sense. In between that, I think I've seen some minor roles that she's been in because I knew her from The Sixth Sense, and it feels like this is like her comeback. And it's been a few years now, and she hasn't really been in much else as far as I've seen. So maybe this wasn't her comeback, but it was really nice to see a woman that's not necessarily your average attractive woman being a main star. This was a regular, ordinary looking family that's going through horrific events. And honestly, I can't say it was really relatable, but I can say that it's very believable. The acting in this movie was so well done by Toni Collette, so well done by Millie Shapiro. The same with Alex Wolff, man. He did an incredible job in this film. One thing I did not like about this film, it was disturbing, but there was a scene where Wolff's character Peter would start crying. I don't know if he's just a bad crier, but that was the only worst acting in this movie I have ever seen. I thought his character, they should have done something else or have him maybe weep in the background or something like that, but him crying was just not believable. But the rest of his performance, him scared shitless in some scenes with his mother, with the incident with his sister, it's insurmountable. It was just like the whole movie was just amazing to watch. As far as viewing it as pure entertainment, I think it would be a little bit harder to watch, especially if it was just a movie you put on as background noise or not pay attention to much of it at all. It's not a good movie for that. I think watching it, it's very beneficial if you immerse yourself in it instead of just casually watch it. I find like the creepiest parts in the movie were not necessarily the parts where big incidences happen, but there are characters that roam in the background that call out some characters' names across the street, or things start moving and being put in place inside the house. Doors are opening. There's a tree house outside with a red light in it. There appears to be people in the treehouse when everybody's inside the house. Then you find out later near the end of the movie that there are actually members of a cult living in the attic, and they're running around the house completely naked. And of course, you only see that near the end of the movie. And there are some scenes in the movie where they're just in the background and they're just smiling like this at different characters. And you're like, whoa. Like again, chills down the back, man. The only thing I would suggest that this movie is its pacing. It is a little bit slow. I still love the movie the way it is, and I noticed this with Ari Aster's films, at least the first two that I've seen, is that he really takes his time with the inner monologue the actors use, and you can tell that's what he's really doing with Hereditary, is he's using inner monologue and they're just staring at the screen or staring at something or an object or whatever, but they're so focused on these characters and there's no dialogue. And that really works in some movies, and it definitely did in this movie to a certain degree. But I'm not really much of a fan of when you do that to an environment, right? Like you're trying to set the tone of the movie or trying to relax your audience after a big dramatic scene happened, or you're trying to get them intensified for the scene that's going to happen. And I get that. if you're on those scenes for too long, it's almost like you're giving the environment inner monologue. And I don't think that's not necessarily needed. I mean, like I said, there are things in the background of this film you need to pay attention to, but usually there's always something happening in the foreground. Characters moving around, with dialogue, right? And then it keeps you focused on those characters. If you find yourself looking at the background, that's an extra bonus. If the camera's just focused on an environment with no characters, no dialogue, and it's just slowly panning in or slowly panning out into a bedroom or a hallway or through a door or outside, and I feel like you lose pacing when you do that, or sometimes you get the audience bored. But it was something I was thinking about while watching the movie. What crossed my mind was that if they fix the pacing a little bit, like if they cut some of those scenes out or really shorten them, those environmental inner monologues, I feel like this could have been a little bit more of a mainstream film. Not like you wanted it. I understand that the filmmaker didn't really want a mainstream film, but I feel like it could have just reached more of a wider audience if that was done. It's kind of like, for an example, The Ring was a very mainstream movie done in a very independent style, just like Hereditary. But one thing that The Ring didn't do is you didn't stick around with characters staring at the camera, staring off into space for too long. There wasn't a lot of inner monologue with The Ring, with environment or, your characters. And having inner monologue, I'm going to tell you, it's great. It's awesome. But not necessarily with environments, backgrounds. Thanks for watching, and please share. If you agree or disagree, put a comment down below me.